You can read any journals for the past 2 years that talk about Africa that don't talk about the critical need to address the infrastructure bottlenecks that exist across the continent in power, transportation, telecommunications, water. It's an enormous, some estimates of up to $100 billion a year of investment for new projects and just maintenance will be needed to start to close the gap. The impact of the infrastructure gap is also very clear. Some estimates say that it's costing Africa as much as 2% of GDP growth per year, and that it's costing African enterprises, African firms and companies as much as 40% in terms of productivity. So, I mean, clearly there's a huge need, a huge challenge, and the numbers are staggering. And this is where PPPs come in, because many of experts see PPPs as one of the important mechanisms to address both the financing gap but also the skill gap. The issue is, how do you get the private sector to come in, invest, operate, and work in coexistence with the public sector to deliver public goods? And this is not rocket science, but it is complex, and it's the complexity of the interface between the public and the private that has made it challenging to really get PPPs in a significant way kickstarted in Africa. Nigeria as a country is, you know, sort of leading the mid-tier of African countries in the way of PPPs. I mean, it's clear that South Africa is the continental leader. They've been doing this for many years. They've developed this expertise, the know-how, and the marketplace is ready for this. And so they're now turning out PPPs very, very quickly. The whole power sector, the refit program for renewable energy is a very good example of that. They're rolling out PPPs in the health sector, so they're very advanced. Nigeria has taken some very, very important steps, and I think the creation of the ICRC, the Regulatory Commission, several years ago is a key step in that way. But what is clear from our perspective is that the wave is coming, and that ICRC and the Nigerian government will be managing that wave. PPPs will have a long-term future in Nigeria, and I'm very optimistic.
PPPs in Nigeria are particularly aimed at improving on various sectors of the economy. However, in a country like Nigeria, there needs to be a major focus on infrastructural development. Where do you think Nigeria is today with public-private partnership in terms of infrastructural development?
Expectations have been very high, and I think some of that was probably getting ahead of reality. Now, I believe we're at the stage where you're going to see a large number of transactions start to move. The power sector is a very good example where one would have normally expected, given the gap between supply and demand, that by now we'd have many PPPs operating or independent power projects. That's just going to start now, and we're optimistic that the framework is being put in place that will make that possible. Of course, as you know, there are certain vested interests that are working perhaps against some of those PPPs, but in the long run, I think we feel that things are moving in the right direction, and we're very positive about that. There are, we're going to be involved in a number of projects across the transport sector, new toll roads, some ports, potentially in the airport sector. We're very excited about that. African Development Bank has just provided a $200 million line of credit to them, which we hope to will give them additional capacity and build the partnership between our institutions. Well, one thing is very clear, is that Nigeria is a country, but it's a continent in itself. And so what works in Nigeria will be replicated other parts of Africa. And that's why it's so important to get it right here. We're optimistic that they're on the right track.